Hey, sis! Lila chirped, her voice bright with the kind of giddy confidence that usually meant she'd done something reckless. So, I maxed out your credit cards. But don't worry, Mom and Dad said you'd understand. I just closed on my dream house. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I was standing in the middle of my one-bedroom apartment in Denver, still in my work heels, staring at my phone as credit alert after credit alert popped up. The total $48,000. All charged within 24 hours. You always play it so safe, Nora, she continued, breezy and oblivious. And I've been working so hard on my influencer brand, you know I needed a space that reflects that. Something inspirational. Honestly, this place is perfect. Mom says it's about time I had something of my own. I sat down at my kitchen table, carefully closing my laptop before I crushed it with my hands. I took a breath. Then another. When's the housewarming? I asked, my voice steady, even though my chest felt like it was cracking open. This Saturday. You have to come. I mean, you basically bought it. She laughed. That same carefree laugh that had gotten her out of everything since we were kids. She hung up before I could respond. For a few minutes I just sat there, letting the silence crawl over me. The window buzzed with city noise, but inside everything felt still. My hands were trembling, but not from panic. Not this time. This wasn't shock. This was clarity. I opened my laptop again, not to check the charges, not to cry. I opened a folder I'd labeled 6 months ago. Contingency. Lila. Inside, it camera footage flagged emails, notarized alerts. I'd been preparing for this moment even if I didn't want to admit it, even if I still hoped she might change. The phone buzzed again. This time it was Mom. Nora, sweetheart, please don't be upset. Lila really needed this. Think of it as a gift. You'll be fine, you always are. I stared at the screen, then back at my files. Maybe they were right. I am fine, just not in the way they expect. I opened a blank page and started writing out a list. Not of what I'd lost, but of what came next. It wasn't the first time Lila had taken something from me. The first big one was the college fund. I was 18 packing for campus when Mom sat me down with a brittle smile and said, "We had to help Lila with her boutique idea. She's passionate, Nora. You're so good with numbers, you'll find a way." I did. I picked up 2 jobs and lived off microwaved soup for 4 years. Then came the car. My first real one bought after 3 years of saving. Lila asked to borrow it for a weekend trip. 2 days later it was totaled and my insurance dropped me. She was going through a breakup, Dad said, handing me bus money. Try to be compassionate. Always the same refrain. You're strong, Nora. She needs more. I believed it longer than I should have. I let it slide because I wanted to be good, the dependable daughter, the steady one. And maybe some part of me hoped naively that one day they'd see how much it cost me. But hope started thinning out last fall. That's when I got a call from the bank. A flagged loan application in my name. I knew immediately who it was, and this time I didn't explain it away. I didn't confront her. I just started collecting. I bought cameras and placed them around my apartment desk drawer entryway computer station. I archived every suspicious email, saved every strange voicemail. And slowly, the truth stopped being something I felt. It became something I could prove. So when Lila called about the house, I didn't panic. I didn't cry. I opened the folder and watched a video of her 3 weeks ago, unlocking my front door with a key she swore she returned, flipping through my desk until she found my wallet. She held up my gold card like it was hers. I hit pause and stared at the still frame. Her smile was wide, triumphant, like the world belonged to her and I was just the supporting character keeping it funded. But not this time. This time I wasn't cleaning up behind her. I was moving in front of her, and I knew exactly where to start. I spent that night combing through my files, every screenshot, every voicemail, every saved email from Mom with phrases like, "She's going through a lot and let's not make it harder for her." One message even hinted that I wouldn't notice a little help being taken. They always couched it in concern, like what they were doing was love. But love doesn't require stealing behind someone's back and calling it support. I archived it all. organized it by date source relevance, a digital timeline of betrayal. Then I opened Instagram. There was Lila twirling on hardwood floors in a video captioned "Manifestation works if you believe hard enough the car dream house the car blessed." In another post, she posed on the front steps with mom and dad, all matching pastel outfits, all teeth and filters. My name wasn't mentioned anywhere, neither were the credit cards that paid for it. That might have been the moment something hardened in me. The house. That particular house. I knew that address. I typed it into our internal system at Morris & Haley, the investment firm where I'd worked for nearly a decade. My name doesn't show up publicly anywhere on the development, but I helped design the financial model for the entire community. I know the property manager, I know the real estate broker, I know which permits haven't cleared and how many liens exist on neighboring parcels. Her house, the one she stole from my future, was already sitting on ground I'd helped vet. I stared at the property file for a long time, feeling that strange blend of fury and power rise in my chest. They thought they'd pulled something over on me. But they built their dream house on a foundation I helped pour, and they were about to find out what happens when the quiet one finally decides to stop staying quiet. By Tuesday, Lila had posted a kitchen reveal video featuring white marble counters and gold fixtures tagging half a dozen interior brands. The caption read, "Can't believe this is real life. Proof that if you leap, the universe catches you." The universe apparently had my credit limit. In another post, she posed in a silk robe with a coffee mug writing "Morning Light in my forever home. Hits different." It hit me differently too, like a punch in the ribs. Meanwhile, Mom and Dad had gone from evasive to pushy. "We just need you to sign the refinancing paperwork," Dad said over the phone. "It's a technicality. You're already on the credit lines anyway, so this would just make things cleaner." "You always make things smoother," Nora Mom added. "And Lila's under so much pressure right now with all the attention. Can't you just support her quietly for once?" I smiled, even though they couldn't see it. "Of course. I'll bring everything to the housewarming party." "Oh, good," Mom sighed. "We'll have the papers printed. You can sign them there." They had no idea what I was actually bringing. On Wednesday, I met with a real estate attorney. On Thursday, with compliance at my firm to clarify legal ties to the development. By Friday, I had notarized documentation security footage stills printed in color and a signed statement from the property manager confirming the buyer's name and funding source. I slid everything into a thick manila envelope and placed it carefully in my work bag. Let them decorate their lies. Let them sip sparkling wine and toast to false triumphs. I'd be there on time, polite and smiling. But I wasn't showing up to celebrate. I was showing up to collect. The driveway was lined with SUVs and imported sedans. Someone handed me a mimosa before I even reached the front door. The house smelled like new paint and expensive candles, the kind that tried too hard to suggest peace. Nora Lila squealed, rushing over in a silk wrap dress that probably cost more than my rent. "You came. You have to see the upstairs bathroom. It's like spa vibes." She pulled me into a hug like nothing had happened, like she hadn't broken into my apartment and drained every card I owned. I smiled and hugged her back. "I brought you a housewarming gift," I said softly. Her eyes lit up. "You didn't have to. I mean, technically, you already did," she giggled. I raised my voice just enough. "Actually, I think this is something the whole family should see." A few heads turned. I turned toward my parents standing near the dining room sipping champagne. "Mom, Dad." "You too." They exchanged a glance. They recognized my tone. The one I used the day I discovered Lila took my college fund. It was the voice I used when I stopped asking and started acting. A hush settled as the room filled in around us, party chatter fading to murmurs. I pulled the manila envelope from my bag and set it on the marble kitchen island. "Lila," I said calmly. "Since you believe in sharing blessings, I thought I'd share something too." One by one, I pulled out the printed still security footage of her in my apartment, her hand on my wallet. Copies of my credit card statements showing the charges. Screenshots of her Instagram posts time-stamped and notarized. Emails from my parents suggesting I should be flexible with my financials. My mother clutched her glass like it might shield her. My father opened his mouth, then shut it again. And finally I said, laying down the last page a legal breakdown of what you're looking at: credit card fraud, identity theft, and breaking and entering. Plus, aiding and abetting. Lila stared at the papers like they were in a different language. The color drained from her face. "You're joking," she whispered. I met her eyes. "No, I'm finally serious." Around us, the guests stood frozen. No one reached for a refill. No one laughed. "I told you I brought a gift," I said. "Now it's time to open it." And then I reached into my bag again, and this time I pulled out the real decision. I placed the second stack of papers on the counter, neat and heavy. My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. "You have two options," I said. "Option 1, you sign over the deed and agree to a repayment plan in writing notarized. Every dollar you stole comes back with interest. Option 2, I hand everything over to the police, including the video, the emails, and the forged signature from last year's car lease." Lila's mouth parted, but nothing came out. Her eyes darted toward Mom, then Dad, then the papers. "This is insane," she finally breathed. "We're family." "That's exactly why it's gone this far," I said. "Because no one ever tells you no." "I was going to pay you back," she whined, her voice already fraying. "Once my content starts picking up again?" "No," I cut in. "You were going to wait for me to forget, like I always do." Dad stepped forward. "Nora, come on. Jail time over some money." "It's not just money," I said. "It's everything. The entitlement, the lies, the fact that you stood by while she robbed me and then asked me to sign more away." Mom sniffled. "We didn't mean harm. We just wanted both our girls to be okay." "You wanted her to succeed at my expense," I replied, "and you expected me to absorb it quietly like always." Lila's hands shook as she hovered over the document. "You'd really do this to me?" she whispered. "To your own sister." "You already did this to me," I said, calm as stone. "And no one stopped you." I watched her face shift. Anger, shame, confusion, then fear. Real fear. She turned to our parents, pleading with her eyes. But they said nothing. For the first time in my life, they had no script. I pushed the pen toward her. "You choose Lila. This isn't revenge. It's boundaries." Her fingers curled slowly around the pen, and for the first time in years, she looked unsure of what came next. I let her sit with that uncertainty, 'cause that's where growth begins. Lila showed up to the signing 15 minutes late, flanked by our parents like they were storming a courtroom. Her usual glam was dialed down, muted colors, no lashes, just enough to play the part of the misunderstood sister. But her eyes still had that old spark, the one that always meant she thought she had an angle. "I have something to add," she said, pulling out a folder and sliding it across the table toward my attorney Diana. "Before we go any further." Diana opened it without flinching. Inside was a photocopy of a contract dated 6 years ago, bearing my signature, apparently co-signing any future business debt Lila took on. "Nora agreed to support my ventures," Lila said. "That includes financial backing. This house falls under that umbrella." My parents nodded like they were in a rehearsal. Dad even folded his arms with a smug little smile. I picked up the page, studied the signature, then looked at Diana. "Show them," I said. Diana turned her laptop toward the table. On screen, grainy footage from my old apartment. Lila at my desk holding a printout, pausing, then slowly tracing my signature over and over until it matched. She practiced it 8 times. "I've known about this for years," I said, keeping my voice level. "I kept the footage. I kept everything." Lila's mouth opened. Nothing came out. "You forged my name," I continued. "That document means nothing, and now that you've tried to use it to manipulate legal proceedings, it's evidence of attempted fraud." Diana slid the real transfer papers forward again. "Shall we continue with the original agreement, or are we taking this to court?" For the first time, Lila looked genuinely small. The room felt heavier now, no smugness, no backup plan. Just consequences. She didn't touch the pen. Not yet. I leaned back in my chair, hands folded. I could wait. I had waited for years. But this time, I wasn't the one squirming. The silence stretched too long, broken only by the ticking of the clock on Diana's wall. Lila stared at the papers like they were written in another language. Her hands hovered uncertain, waiting for someone to save her like they always did. Dad cleared his throat louder than necessary. "Sign it." Lila blinked at him. "What, you heard me," he said, voice low and flat. "Sign the papers, Lila. This is done." Her face crumpled for a second, not in tears, just disbelief. Like the one person who'd always bent the rules for her had finally stepped outside the game. Mom leaned forward, her voice soft and trembling. "Nora, she didn't mean it this way. She gets caught up in things. You know how she is." "I do," I said, not unkindly. "And that's exactly why I'm doing this. But she's your sister." "And I'm your daughter," I said. That never seemed to matter when I was the one cleaning up the mess. Lila lowered her head. Her fingers picked at the edge of the folder, still not moving toward the pen. I didn't say another word. I wasn't going to beg for closure she didn't deserve. Dad walked over, picked up the pen, and dropped it in front of her. "Enough," he said, like he was talking to a child who'd finally pushed too far. Lila's signature was messy, almost angry, but it was real. No practiced lines, no fake flourishes. Just her name exposed and vulnerable for once. Diana notarized the documents. I watched as each page became official, binding, irreversible. Mom wiped at her eyes, but no one reached for her hand. Dad stood with his arms crossed, looking at the floor. I gathered the papers, carefully folded them into a new envelope, and stood up. No dramatic words, no parting shots, just the weight of finality settling into the room. As I walked out, no one followed. No one called after me. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty for leaving them behind. It's been a year since the signing. A full year since I walked out of that office with a folder in my bag, and the weight of my family's expectations finally lifted off my shoulders. Lila never went to jail. I didn't press charges. She signed everything, stuck to the repayment plan, and surprisingly held up her end. Every month, like clockwork, a payment arrives. No late fees, no excuses, just a quiet transfer from her account to mine. She has a job now, a real one, marketing associate at a small local firm. Not glamorous, but solid. Her Instagram looks different too. Gone are the luxury shots and faux deep quotes. Now it's photos of coffee mugs beside spreadsheets, captions like "Budgeting is self-respect" and "Financial literacy is healing." Sometimes I scroll through them and wonder if any of it is real, but then I remember at least now she's pretending in the right direction. Dad called a few months ago. He didn't try to justify anything, just said he was sorry, that he'd started seeing a therapist, that maybe they failed both of us in different ways. It wasn't everything, but it was something. Mom didn't call, but she left a voicemail last week. She sounded tired, not from anger, but from understanding. "You were right, Nora. She needed to fall," she said. "We never let her. That's on us." I saved the message. I haven't replied yet. Some days I wonder what would have happened if I'd stayed quiet again, if I'd signed those papers, if I'd swallowed it all just to keep the peace. But then I see the changes, not perfect, not fast, but real, and I know that silence would have cost all of us more than we could afford. I open the banking app on my phone. The most recent deposit is there. Lila's note attached, paid early this month. "Thank you." I type a simple reply, "Received. Take care," and close the screen. It's not forgiveness, but it's enough to keep walking forward. The house sold in the spring, just before the tulips came in. A young couple with 2 kids bought it, first-time homeowners, eager and wide-eyed. I left the welcome packet on the counter with a handwritten note. "May this home hold more honesty than mine ever did." The profit covered my remaining balances and the legal fees. I didn't keep the rest. I put it toward a down payment on a small condo downtown, just enough space for me, sunlight in the morning, and quiet at night. No cameras, no locks on desk drawers, no folder titled "Contingency." I didn't need a backup plan anymore. I wasn't waiting for someone to betray me. The promotion came through last quarter, VP of Strategic Finance. My boss cited how I handled complex internal conflict with integrity and clarity. I almost laughed. I didn't tell him the conflict wore my last name. Lila still texts once a month with her payment receipts. This time it came early. Her message was short. "Payment sent. Early this time. No emojis, no excuses. I typed back, "Thank you. That's our rhythm now. Professional, distant, clean. Mom and Dad invite me to dinner sometimes. I go. We talk about the weather and books and what therapy is teaching them. We don't talk about the house, or the signature, or the silence that lasted for decades. But I sleep well. Not because everything is perfect, but because for once, it's real."